Hi, this is Fischer, CEO and creator of Wishbeads. And my goodness, I am so honored, thrilled, and delighted to have Kristine Carlson on the podcast today to share her wish story. She is an author, speaker, a New York Times bestselling author, by the way, and she launched her publishing phenomenon with her amazing husband, Dr. Richard Carlson, who came into this world as a bright light, sharing "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff" with the world. And from that time, Kristine collaborated on a number of different books, writing many of them herself that involved with "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff" in love and for moms and all kinds of amazing books. And after Richard's passing, carried on the family tradition, continuing to write write books, but also we're going to talk about today launching incredible retreats and really bringing the experience of transformation off the page into real life and gathering people all over the world for additional transformation and leadership. So thank you, Chris, for being here.
Hey, Alexa, it's always so wonderful to see your sunshiny face. Thank you for having me.
Well, I must say, before we go any further, I'm going to let people know that Chris and I had the pleasure of doing a retreat together. Alex Franzen is a mutual friend and was one of my internet heroes. And so when I decided to go to a writing retreat, which is actually the seeds for my publishing of my own book. We met on the retreat, and I didn't even know you were going to be there, and I was a big fan. So it was very exciting to all of a sudden be like, yay, we get to play in Hawaii together. So it was awesome.
It was so much fun. Alex throws the best retreats.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, I was not a retreat person because I was always like, I'm too busy, like with my kids and my businesses, and too busy. And then something deep down inside of me, call it exhaustion or the wall, is that when I did find out about her retreat, it was a giant yes. I didn't even think. I just dove in and I treated myself to that experience, and it changed my life. It actually changed my life. So now I'm a big fan.
Yes, it's an amazing thing to do for yourself, is to go on retreat and also to lead them.
Yeah, definitely. And there's plans for that as well. But today we're going to focus on, yes, our story is we did meet on retreat together, and I did bring Wishbeads to the retreat. And I believe we did the paper bead version right there. I had the beaded bracelet, right? Didn't I have that as well?
Yeah, you did. You had the beaded bracelet. Did we do two together or just one?
I almost feel like we did two together. That's funny. I think we did two together. But I knew that I had just launched the beaded bracelet at that point. So it was very prototypey.
You let us pick out one of the beaded bracelets. So that was the first time I saw them. They're really cool.
Yes. But what I loved was, and I was so honored, is that then you began integrating them into your own retreats, the retreats that you lead all over the world. And specifically, your retreat that's talking about what now, that you yourself, your own journey. And for my listeners and viewers that don't know your journey, is that, you had this storybook love affair with your beloved Richard that you met in high school. Is that right? I mean, you knew each other
early in college. My freshman year in college, I was 18 when I met Richard.
Okay, so young. And you had this, he was all heart and hustle, and Don't Sweat the Small Stuff was not his first book. So you all were there lifting each other up through the diligence of one book, and then it kind of goes and another book and another book. And just when he was ready to give up, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff came into being, and just whoosh, your whole lives changed. And kind of at the peak, he then suddenly died. And I was so moved personally by your own story of resilience and determination and love of now being a single mother and holding up and honoring Richard and your commitment to transformation and to helping others. I was in awe of that. And look at you again, now taking that one step further into the retreat space. It's just an inspiration to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so the What Now program really is a direct result of my own healing. You know, it was really where I was at. I was invited by Marcia Wieder to do her Dream University coaching program. And I was curious, like, what's a coaching program? I'd never done any coaching, any personal coaching. And she was doing her last one. And so she invited me to attend, and I said, sure, I'll go. And then I loved her program so much, but it wasn't really my program. And so I didn't become a dream coach. I decided to take what I learned from her about coaching and create my own curriculum based on what I felt from my own change management experience, what would really encourage and help and teach people, women specifically, how to move forward after facing an identity crisis that comes through a large change and transition. So, you know, and it's not just the loss of a spouse, although I do get a fair amount of widows on my retreats. It's also the same kind of loss that people go through in divorce, or even I've had a lot of women just going through an identity crisis from being, you know, having to change careers after 30 years, or they've just come out of a health crisis, or they're in the empty nest part of their lives and they know they have more to do, they just don't know what. And so this program, which is such a beautiful program for somebody to evaluate who they are after this change and transition. That's the whole process that they go through. And then develop a new dream, you know, and that's why the Wishbeads are such a perfect gift. I love to, at every retreat, I always have a gift bag, and I pick out, one of the things that I focus on at the retreat is the magic of the mystery. And so I love to like find these, each thing in their bag is very meaningful to the retreat and to the process that we're going to be going through. They're not just like these, you know, these gifts that are random. There's usually, I go to this little gift store in Gualala because I do that retreat at Sea Ranch, California. And I go to this gift store and she has these little hearts. And on these little hearts, there's like little words, and they're really tiny, so they have to be in their own little bag so that they find them. But it says like be, or be free, or bliss, or you can be happy, or, you know, it has these little phrases, and I put them in these bags, and I let every woman there pick their own bag, and they all have the same things in them but different. And in those bags I put the wish beads, and then when we circle up, you know, I have them bring their bag, and this is the first morning circle. And I ask them to open their bag, and I tell them about the wish beads and how to use them. And I say, like, throughout the weekend, I want you to think about what is your greatest desire for your life from this point forward. And I want you to take the paper and write in it from this retreat, what is your greatest desire from this point forward? And it's usually something big for their lives, you know, something they really are deeply longing for. And the thing I love about this is that it always helps you remember. It's very intentional, and it helps you to remember. And then it becomes very magical because Janine Ellis is my yoga teacher, and she's a sound healer, and she's quite a shaman, and she comes on retreat and does her part of the retreat too. And she said that every wish that she puts in her wish bead comes true. And then she goes through this process, of taking it out and then returning it to the earth. Like, she actually burns the wish once it's come true.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. And so I think that's the beauty of these beads, is the intention of it. And it's like, you always have to, if you want to create something, as you know, you've got to put your stake in the ground, and you have to state it and really think about it and really believe it and feel it in your whole heart and soul. And I think the wish beads really help the women that come on my retreats do that.
I love that, Chris. I really do. And I know that, you know, The other thing that happens with retreats is that you can immerse yourself in this beautiful place. You can surround yourself with these people that all are like-minded in the sense that they're there for a specific intention, and be guided so beautifully by yourself, by the people that you bring on with you. And then comes the reentry. Then comes that moment where you go back into your life and you go back into the demands and the patterns and the people. And it's so easy to forget, to forget. So for me, the feedback that I've heard as well from my other wish leaders is like, wow, people have this visible reminder that throughout their day, yes, it's their wish, but it's also that energy, the special energy that you collected and you created and you circled and you supported one another. And that can come home with you. That's actually who you are. You know, you create that.
We do the red thread ceremony at the beginning of our retreats too, where you pass the red yarn around, and the idea is that you're all a circle of sisters. So there's a container that happens for the weekend, and that each sister has their own red thread, but it's always connected to every other sister in the circle, and that there are no accidents to who you're to meet. And so with our retreats, I feel like the Wishbeads are another kind of continuation of that.
Yep.
Excuse me, for women to feel that sense of connection that they felt at the retreat with their sisters and feel like they're in community.
I love that. And I'd love to also talk about the power of seeing the intention that you're putting out into the world. Because when you're asking people, you know, what now? Partly there's the fear of being like, change is uncomfortable. Even though, you know, if you're not changing, you're dying. So change is something that we should really get a PhD in learning how to deal with. But, you know, when you're in that place of wondering, just the invitation to imagine what the best possible thing is waiting for you on the other side of uncertainty. So talk to me about, in your methodology or in your understanding as a transformational leader, what does that visioning mean to you and to the people that you coach? That seeing.
Well, for me, it's a process, you know, and, you know, people have different, there are definitely visionary people, you know, and then there are other people that aren't as visionary, but you can learn to become visionary. And I think, you know, you have to get people to use their imagination and to have the belief and faith in their own dreams. And, you know, I remember when I couldn't dream because I was still in such a shock from my loss. And it was even 5 years after, and I still didn't have any future orientation because I couldn't go there. And so a lot of what I realized is that you have to take baby steps, especially for people who have gone through huge change and transition. And, you know, my friend Christina Rasmussen, she talks about in her book, Second First, she talks about the waiting room. And this is something that all people in change and transition can relate to, is feeling stuck, you know, feeling like they're in quicksand and they're stuck and they just can't move forward because it doesn't feel safe. And so what you have to do is start to look at your passion and look at what excites you about your life. And I always tell women, look, you don't need to know anything about tomorrow or the next day. All you need to do is ask yourself every single moment, what's my yes right now? What do I feel excited about? Maybe it's baking a cake, or maybe it's going for a walk with my dog, or maybe it's going to the supermarket, or maybe it's calling a girlfriend, or maybe it's sitting and reading a book. What excites me? And that one thing is a breadcrumb. And that's all you need to get from one moment to the next, is from one feeling of passion of being alive, because that's really what you're saying, is if you can access what excites you, you're accessing life. And this is very powerful, you know, to live this way. And it's sort of that kind of like that way of having your cake and eat it too, of living in the present moment, because
Yeah.
you have to live in the present moment, but you're always in the present moment asking yourself, what do I feel excited about right now?
Right
Right
now.
now, I'm totally excited about sitting here with you, seeing your smiley face and talking with you. And then you're accessing, not only are you being present, but you're also giving yourself a breadcrumb. And what you're practicing is a true sense of what it means to be grateful, and what it means to be grateful for the moment and passionate and alive. And that's probably the biggest instruction that I give is be present, but ask yourself that one question: what excites you?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think that it can be so daunting when people think about, like, what is my purpose, or what is my future, and it's, it's, it's that now, and that there is grace in every moment if you're willing to surrender and see it. And it's okay if it's so tiny, if it just moves you a little bit in the direction of grace and peace and happiness and delight. That's perfect. That's absolutely where you need to be. And I often say that in the Wishwork, which is the 21 days after you make your wish, that they're so wildly simple that it is so easy to not trust it, to blow it off. And it's in the simplicity of noticing someone smile, or noticing a song that's playing on the radio, or just telling somebody your wish out loud. There's so much power in that. And we don't have to change our lives, and we don't have to go to an ashram in India, and we don't have to like all the big things that sometimes you can look online in the world of Instagrammy, whatever, compare and despair, that it's so simple. And even before we had this call, I'm a big believer in the power of connection, just connecting with people. And my neighbor my neighbor called me and said, Alexa, it's Jade. I'm seeing this little white dog. I can't catch it, but I remember your mom, had a little white dog that you would watch from time to time, which was horrifying because the dog would get away, and it was terrible because I would be worried that I was going to kill the dog. But I called, she called me, and then I called her back and I said, Jade, the dog already died, and I'm so happy it didn't happen under my watch. And we laughed and we laughed and we laughed. And I said, that's what makes life rich. It's so simple, but suddenly that feeling of my neighbors have this connection with one another. We're not living on this island, which means that in times of need, you have a safety net. And so, oftentimes I'll have a narrative in my head. I'm using this as an example of like, Santa Monica's gotten too busy. It's too hectic here. It's too like, I'm going to go, this, because I talked about this. I'm going to go live in the woods because I have a big, like, I'm going to go live in the woods narrative. I probably will live in the woods at some point. But it's funny that there's this trap door, like I've got to go do this other big thing. When today I feel the grace of just that little connection, that made us both smile.
Yeah.
And that's where the deliciousness of life lives, in the little micro moments.
Yeah, I think what you've just described is a really magical existence, and it really is in the small things that we take notice of. We called it finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Yes. Yes.
When you can look at what's ordinary and find it absolutely extraordinary, that is an amazing way to live your life.
Yeah. Just last week, my son's 5th grade class, yes, it was the 5th grade class, performed Our Town, which is the play by Thornton Wilder, which is my favorite play of all time. I played Mrs. Webb when I was a senior in high school. But the point of that whole entire beautiful play, which was written in 1907, it was written, that's not right. I think it was written in 1924, but it took place I know it took place in 1907. Anyway, a long time ago. But the message was the same, that we are so busy living our lives that we don't ever pause and see how wonderful and magical the experience truly is.
Yeah.
And when Emily, she dies, I'm not giving, well, it's a play that's been around for a long time, but in Act 3, our little heroine, Emily, dies and comes back to witness the living. And she's reliving a moment when she's 12 years old. It is her birthday. And she is watching her mother make breakfast and say, come on, you're late for school. And everybody is so busy and nobody is smelling the bacon. Nobody is looking at each other in the eye. And in the story, you know, her brother dies in Act 2 and nobody is appreciating what is in front of them. And here I am watching my son graduate 6th grade next week. And I'm like, where did the time go? Where's my little boy? You know? So when we can stop and be like, wow, you know, let's have this moment together and go watch the sunset, or, you know, sip coffee in the morning and listen for the birds. You know, this is everything. Then time expands instead of shrinks, you know?
When I think, again, you know, just bringing it back to retreats, I mean, that's one of the most incredible things that happens for people at retreat, that you have to retreat from your life and the busyness of your life to really be in the flow of, you know, what's really possible, and the insights and the awareness that you have when you get away from all that busyness, when you do like a detox of some kind, you know, of, you know, getting away from your cell phone. As mine's ringing, I don't know if you can hear that.
The music, our modern day soundtrack.
I forgot to turn, it was in the other room. I'm like, I'm surprised it's so loud. But
we're raising the energy, so now people want to contact you.
Yeah, so, you know, it's when you can get away and just really, I always noticed whenever I got away from the busyness, especially raising children, I had the best insights about parenting. And
of course,
I would go back and I'd be like, God, and it was so obvious once I got out of the routine of life. And that was one of the reasons why I decided that retreat was going to be a really big part of my process and my business, you know, was because I know that that's, and it's just amazing, you know, whenever you get a group of women together, they're a great group, magic's going to happen.
It is. And I mean, I can even think about the relationships in addition to our own, how my life has been enriched, not just by the experience of whatever we were doing, you know, my own personal experience with the material and with Alex's program, but just the wonderful connection and camaraderie and support that came as a result of that.
So I know. Remember Nicole? Do you remember when she did the coffee enema, like where she was teaching? I actually did coffee enemas for a whole year after that. They're hilarious, and oh my God, and oh yeah, I mean.
Okay, can I confess though to you, Chris, that based on your enthusiasm, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna confess to you right now that I bought everything, and it is sitting underneath my sink in my bathroom, and I've not done it once.
Well, it is a gruesome experience, especially the first time. I mean, you have to really be like, whoa. I mean, it was like, wow. Now I've kind of got it down to a science. I can get it all done in like a half an hour.
Wow, I am impressed. Bonus. That was a sidebar bonus exercise. Where we all were sitting, we're like drinking coffee in the kitchen being like, what? Really? I'm like, I don't, what? Seriously?
I thought it was awesome. And it's great, you know, and my doctor, like, she goes, what have you been doing? Your panel, like your blood panel is, I was doing a ton of stuff, but I told her, I go, I think maybe my coffee enemas really helped my cholesterol lower. And because they really are, like, it was great for the digestion, but just on a sidebar of the whole thing, we're not going to turn this into coffee.
We're just keeping it real on the podcast today. Now, speaking of coffee.
But I was just saying the relationships and the things you learn on retreat are amazing. Like, I thought that was so cool. And I mean, I actually did it.
And I also like, you also have to surround yourself with people that are like, yes, people, you know, that giddiness. And I remember, I mean, honestly, your laughter is so infectious. I just remember laughing at so many dinners and so many things. We had so much fun. And so, I mean, I really did. That was the first time I was like, why have I not been going on retreats forever? Because
I know. You meet the coolest people.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So tell me a little bit, like, and especially for the people watching this, wherever they're watching it, give us a little snapshot about the retreats you offer. I know we talked about what now, but where you do them and things like that. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, so I mean, about 4 or 5 years ago, I decided that I was looking at all the different ways that the online world opens us up as authors. Like, what can we do with our brand, And so I decided that I would only do things that, first of all, I love to do. And, because I'm now a widow and single, I don't really like to travel alone. I mean, I really don't. It's not my thing. I'm a people person. And if I travel, I either want to go with one person, but I also love to travel in groups. And so I decided that I would start to lead retreats. Now, that said, I've had quite a bit of training by being on many retreats myself. And also most of my training comes from my friends, Rich and Yvonne Dutra St. John from Challenge Day. And they are like transformational leaders like no other. So I have done tons of work with them. I have been on many retreats with them, done many programs with them, been on their board and raised a lot of money for their organization. So anyways, that said, I've learned a tremendous amount about how to really lead a transformational retreat. And I decided that if I was going to travel, I wanted to be able to travel to places I love to go to and be able to deduct it. And so I thought retreat is perfect for me. I'll invite cool people to come on these amazing trips with me. And, and that's kind of how I decided. Then I also, with the What Now program, I knew that the retreat would solidify the program for the women, and it was an added value. And so I also have a book program now, a bookdoulas.com program. And
beautiful.
We do a retreat for that as well. And so I just realized that if you're really going to bring a group together, whether it's a mastermind or it's an online group, the best way to do it is to involve a live event. And so, and I just think women, they love retreats, just like I do. So my retreat business has really grown. And this year, especially, I'm noticing after 5 years that all I really have to do is put out an email and let people know. In fact, I have a list of about 100 women now that have gone through my retreats. And really those 100, they continue to fill my international retreats. So I do the What Now program is what I call my local retreat, meaning it's in Northern California. I have a place on the coast there, and I rent the two places next door. And I just have it set up where I bring Janine Ellis, and she's a beautiful yoga teacher, shaman, sound healer. She comes and does her work in the morning with us, and then we do circle work together. And it's all surrounding the questions that we ask in the What Now program online course. So every woman that comes to the retreat has to do the first 3 pieces of the course, including the workbook. It's quite an extensive workbook. And that's what puts everybody at a really like-minded place. And we all have, having kind of known they're all into their personal growth, they're all asking the same questions. That in and of itself brings them all together as a group immediately.
I love that. In fact, that's in the program space, I actually love that you make that mandatory, because I think a lot of times people have this notion that, you just go somewhere and then like magic fairy dust happens and all the transformation happens, but it requires work. That's why I call this wish work, because you actually have to do things.
You
do the work. You have to do the work. And even to have that accomplishment of doing some work, investigation, writing, reflection before you even arrive, then you get that connection with you to go deeper. You don't have to stay at the surface.
Add the Wishwork to my gift bag.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I better add those books to my gift bag for the next retreat in September. So
yeah, great. Yeah, I think when you were first doing that, I hadn't published the book, because I published the book because I was working on the book when we did that first retreat.
Yeah, that's right. So then I do other retreats. So that's my, oh my God, there's a turkey in my courtyard. How hilarious. She's looking, whoa. I do my other retreats are
That
like
must be a sign.
it's a sign of abundance, actually. Turkeys are, yeah. So,
Why am I so not surprised?
so my other retreats I do are in Italy, and I'm running my first retreat in Bali, and I'm adding a couple more retreats in the next couple of years. And I just decided that it's just something that lights me up. I love doing it, and I really am at this point in my life, being in my mid 50s, where I just don't do anything I don't love to do, and it has to be fun.
Amen.
Yeah, it has to be fun, and I'm all about making work fun, and retreats are fun.
Yeah. You're in the right business when you leave your work and you're more energized than when you arrived.
Yeah,
And then it's like life is the sweetest thing in the whole world.
that's so
Um,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Retreats don't exhaust me at all. I have so much fun on them, and I feel like now I finally have them kind of dialed in. Like I know what I'm doing. Just love adding just special things like the wish beads into it. Would love to add the Wishwork book into the gift bag, and be able to really talk about that at
Great.
the retreat. And I think that would be an amazing addition for that program. So, and I just want to thank
Yay.
you, Alexa. Like I feel like I've been around from the beginning, and
Yeah.
this is such a beautiful story of your own personal journey that you've come to build this company. And I'm glad it's going so well, because it should go well. It's absolutely an amazing thing that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm just honored for you to be in the orbit and sharing the love. And who knows what the future will bring, but I think that I have learned so much from you personally. And then I think also in that sisterhood of entrepreneurship, I
Yeah.
think is a wonderful, wonderful club.
One
And
one additional thing I want to say about the wish beads that I love is that each of the stones has meaning too, and
ah,
you can pick. I picked this last turquoise one that I have on my wrist.
yes, these
Yeah,
are all the meanings.
because the meaning is really about finding your purpose, being
Yep.
purposeful and
Yep.
purpose driven. And I loved that, because that's what we talk so much about at the What Now retreat.
Yeah. And it's funny. So the actual description, I just have the little guide here. It's all online as well. But it has the ability to confirm our purpose and reassure ourselves that we're on the right path. It's where we'll feel confident and stable when confronting change and
Oh, wow.
discovering new opportunities. This divine stone gives one the strength to pursue their dreams and become their true self.
Yeah, see, I mean, how
Bing,
perfect
bing,
is
bing, bing.
that?
And it's
It's
funny, I got something from Forbes Women, and they're interested in learning about wish beads. And so of course I sent them the light jade for wealth and wisdom. So if you look at this, if you look at the menu, and I do this when I do live events, people stare at the menu and I'm like, you can't start there. Because honestly, if you read all of the description, you'd be like, I would like all of them on my wrist because I want all of them. So you can get them, one at a time, whatever you're focusing on. But they do have certain meanings, which I think just gives it a little more energy and charge.
Yeah, and hey, Alexa, I just want to thank you for the Wish Leader discount too, because that really helps me, like, buy one for each participant. If you didn't have that,
Mm,
they might be a little bit spendy for me for each
sure.
participant, but it really helps me buy a quantity of them, and I want to thank you for that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think, my big wish is to have as many people wishing as possible. And
Yeah,
I think that there are thought leaders such as yourself who are integrating them into meaningful experiences. So that sort of lends itself to this whole other, realm that is like an extension of wish beads. And in my own business, I'm going to develop a certified wish leader program, which means that when I'm asked to do retreats, and that's my schedule is actually starting to get busier and busier, I'll have people that are actually certified to run this, and that can be like, I'm busy, but here you go. Here's someone who's going to guide you through the entire experience,
nice.
involving, visualizations and sort of the more immersive event. But, it's fun. And, we're creating this. Like, this whole idea came to me in a moment in the shower, and look where we are.
Crazy. So
It's
fun.
crazy. You know, Alex, you'll appreciate this, and then we'll wrap up. But yesterday I was on a call with with my publisher, and I was telling them about all these, you know, this, I'm doing this, and this is happening, and this is happening, and there's all this stuff. And then I was also sharing some ideas of where I see it going. And I'm really drawn to Japan. And I said something, I was like, I really like, there's such a need in Japan, and I'm so drawn in Japan to doing this. And I said, I just want to be like the Marie Kondo of Japan, but for like wishing and manifestation and connection. And and Alex afterward was like, Alexa, I love you. You're like bonkers in the most beautiful way.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
was like,
There's
that
something
is
to
such
say.
a compliment. Yes, I am. Because I am just like, here's what I see. Wouldn't it be amazing if? And then I'm just wacky enough to go and do it.
You're the visionary, and then you're the visionary. That's what a visionary does.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of heart, a lot of hustle, and a lot of good times. And
Yeah.
I so love seeing you and chatting with you. And I thank you so much for the generosity of sharing your story on my platform. We'll share it on your platform, and beautiful things will happen.
Oh, big hug, big kisses. Keep
Yes,
wishing, keep spreading the love.
I will, baby girl. And
Okay,
then hopefully when you come to LA, let me know
I will.
so we can see each other.
Okay.
Okay, enjoy your day. Stay
Thank
amazing. I
you.
adore you so.
I know you too. Love you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
And for all of my amazing Wishbead people, I invite you to check out Kristine Carlson. I'm going to put all of her information and the links to the show notes, so you'll be able to check out her retreats, check out her books, and follow her on social because she is amazing. All right. Thank you all. Thank you for watching. Have an incredible day. Keep wishing. And thanks for being part of the Wishbeads experience and the Wishbeads podcast. All right. Stay awesome. Bye.